Visual, grainy, flickering footage of four boys staring directly into the lens, unblinking, silent, narration whispered then rising. In the fall of 1873, four identical boys were found wandering near the edge of a dried-up lake in rural Indiana. No birth records, no guardian, just the same face. Replicated 4 times over, they would become known as the Kellner Brothers. Local officials called it a miracle of nature, but the doctors, those who examined them, called it something else. One physician's journal, sealed away for nearly a century, described them as individuated echoes of something older than man. He was found drowned in his study 3 days after writing that. The footage you're seeing was confiscated in 1931. It has never aired publicly. The boys do not blink. They never blink. Kellner Hollow wasn't a town, it was a crater, a place the map forgot, dug into the wildlands east of Bloomington. Settlers claimed the land was cursed. Surveyors called it geologically impossible, but still, a few families planted roots and disappeared. In 1872, a lightning storm split a sycamore tree behind the only church in the hollow. Underneath, something was found. A cavity in the earth, carved walls, prayers in a language no one recognized. Months later, the Kellner boys arrived, dressed alike, clean, healthy, and mute. There were no footsteps in the mud leading to where they stood. Reverend Lyle Greaves was the first to take them in. His diary, discovered 80 years later behind the choir loft, held the only first-hand account. They do not speak, and yet they know. They rise before dawn to sit outside the chapel, facing the sun, not like prayer, like listening. The Reverend's wife fell ill 3 weeks after the boys arrived. Then his daughter vanished from her room, no signs of forced entry, only a smear of salt and charcoal on her bedsheets. He tried to have the boys taken to an orphanage in Indianapolis. The train derailed halfway there, only the conductor survived. His final statement, they hummed like a swarm and the sky turned white. Doctors from Cincinnati, then Boston, were dispatched to study the boys. All four were found to share not just height, weight, and facial features, but identical fingerprints, identical tooth structure, identical moles and birthmarks. Even the scars matched on their knees, elbows, lower backs. When one boy bruised, the others developed the same bruise. When one bled, so did the rest. But it was what they didn't do that truly frightened the staff. They didn't sleep. They only closed their eyes for exactly 33 minutes each night. At the same time, every night, no matter where they were, and always facing north. St. Wenceslaus Asylum for Orphaned Youth received the Kellner Brothers in winter of 1873. Director Marie Bellwood logged their arrival and wrote, "They are polite, eager to help, but I feel watched when they enter a room, not seen, watched." Within a month, 5 other orphans went missing. No broken locks, no forced entry, no witnesses, just folded linens left in their beds like they'd evaporated. Marie started sleeping with a crucifix under her pillow. She was found in the chapel weeks later, both eyes plucked out and her hands folded in prayer. Written in ash across the altar, "The boys in the basement." After Marie Bellwood's death, the Kellner brothers were moved to the lower levels of the orphanage, kept in separate locked rooms. But the staff reported hearing footsteps pacing at night. One set of steps echoed 4 times, always in perfect rhythm. When the cook descended to bring them food, she claimed to hear whispers, not from the boys, but from the walls, whispered scripture in a guttural voice spoken backward. She quit the next morning. By spring, the other children refused to eat, said the food tasted like soil and blood. An inspection of the orphanage cellar revealed a hidden trapdoor sealed with melted wax and hundreds of bone fragments beneath it, each carved with the same face. They matched the boys. Dr. Abraham Fenlow, a Harvard biologist and early twin study pioneer, was granted full access to the boys in 1874. He performed regular exams, swabbing their skin, testing blood samples, questioning them endlessly. The brothers never answered, but every morning the chalkboard in Fenlow's lab displayed new writing, "Ask again and you'll forget your name." He blamed the staff, installed locks, but the messages kept appearing. Fenlow's final experiment involved separating the boys by 40 miles. One was taken to a sanitarium in Terre Haute. Within 11 hours, every window in the Kellner wing shattered from the inside. The boy in Terre Haute was found face down, whispering to the floor in tongues no one could identify. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of a second boy back in Bloomington. perfectly, by 1876, news of the Kellner Brothers had reached Washington. A delegation of unnamed men in black coats arrived unannounced at St. Wenceslaus. They confiscated all documents, ordered staff silence, and shuttered the building. 2 days later, the asylum caught fire. It burned for 14 hours, though it had no gas line. Of the staff, only one, groundskeeper Elijah Trask, survived. He was later institutionalized. In a rare lucid moment, he told a reporter, "They weren't boys, they were an idea, an old, starving idea. We fed it with our fear." Official cause of the fire, unexplained combustion. In 1921, a team of amateur explorers stumbled upon the ruins of St. Wenceslaus. Among the ashes, they found a photograph encased in a glass jar buried 6 feet deep. It showed 4 boys, around 12 years old, dressed in turn of this century orphanage garb. But here's the thing, it was dated 1903. The original Kellner brothers would have been in their 30s by then. Experts confirmed the photograph was not a forgery. The age of the chemicals matched, the paper matched. The handwriting on the back, "We wait beneath," was written in a now extinct ink formula. And the boys in the image, not a year older than they were in 1873. The land where the asylum once stood is now known as Whispering Pine Hill. Locals say animals avoid it. No birds nest in the trees. No insects crawl across its mossy ground. In 1934, a group of schoolchildren on a picnic wandered too close to the ruins. One girl returned, screaming uncontrollably. Her voice, permanently hoarse, repeated the same phrase until the day she died. "They called me by name, but I never told them my name." Over the next decade, 6 more children vanished near the site. Each disappearance occurred on the same date, November 14th, the day the Kellners first arrived in the Hollow. In 1942, Father Edmund Blackwood, a Jesuit scholar, claimed to have uncovered a psalm fragment written in the margins of an 1870s hymnal salvaged from the ruins of Kellner Hollow. It was not in Latin, not Hebrew, not Greek. Linguists called it Proto-Uralic. Cryptographers couldn't decode it, but phonetic reconstructions were made, and one night on a dare, students at a seminary in Pennsylvania sang it aloud. Every window in the chapel shattered. A student collapsed, convulsing violently. When he awoke, he whispered one sentence: "They are not children, they are what watches childhood." The recording of the hymn was archived. But in 1951, it was destroyed by order of the Catholic Diocese of Scranton. They cited ritual contamination. In a small museum in southern Indiana, an archivist named Molly Jansen came across a locked filing cabinet with 4 drawers. The bottom was sealed shut. After years of bureaucracy, she was allowed to force it open. Inside, 4 perfectly preserved hospital gowns, all child-sized, all identical. All tagged, Kellner I Kellner Roman, 2 Kellner Roman, 3 Kellner Roman, 4. Beneath the gowns was a single envelope labeled "Do not open unless they return." Inside were 4 identical black and white photographs. Each boy was staring straight into the camera. But as Molly held them up to the light, she noticed something impossible. In each photo, the other 3 boys were absent. Only one boy existed in each image. She suffered a breakdown that night. She now lives in assisted care, still murmuring, "It's not 4, it's 1 just folded too many times." In 1957, a passenger train bound for Cincinnati vanished somewhere between 2 stations just 10 miles apart. No crash site, no debris, no survivors, but days later a rural station master swore that the train passed through his town. Without stopping, he saw only one car lit from within. Inside sat 4 boys, identical, expressionless, dressed in outdated clothing. He tried to wave it down. The train didn't slow. All that was found was a single paper passenger manifest, thrown from a passing window. It read, 4 seats, 1 fare, paid in full, destination, where the doors never open. There was one institution that made it its mission to forget the Kellner brothers, the Ossuary Institute of Psychological Devotion. Founded in 1899, its charter included one chilling phrase: "We are the barrier, we are the closing door." Records show they confiscated nearly every known artifact, diary, and photograph related to the Kellner case. When questioned, the Institute denied ever having knowledge of the children, but a 1962 leak revealed a series of internal memos do not allow Kellner-related names to circulate. If any individual reports seeing one, quarantine immediately. They are a contagion of patterned memory. The Institute closed its doors in 1983. The reason? A woman claimed her son split into 4 versions of himself after touching an old hymnal at a church sale. In 1991, a sleep study in Kansas began observing a peculiar phenomenon. Children across states and countries describing the same recurring dream. 4 boys dressed in gray, standing motionless at the end of an impossibly long hallway. One girl described their humming through the floor like bees inside the walls. I can't look away or they get closer. Another child, a boy in Maryland, woke up screaming, clutching his neck. He said, "They told me my name, but it wasn't mine. It was the name I'll have later." Researchers compared the drawings. Each child drew the same 4 faces, each face identical. In 2003, a private investigator named Raymond Sykes was hired to look into a missing persons case near Kellner Hollow. The client's child had vanished while hiking. Sykes kept a voice recorder on his person. The final transmission captured this. "I see something down the path. 4 boys just standing there. Wait. No, it's one boy. No, it's a man. I can't. His face is mine. I'm looking at myself." Raymond's body was never recovered, but his notebook was found nailed to a tree at the edge of the hollow. One phrase repeated over and over, "I am the 4th." The handwriting deteriorates mid-page as if the hand writing it forgot how to be human. In 2012, satellite imagery of southern Indiana revealed an anomaly, a perfect geometric shape in the soil surrounding Kellner Hollow, a diamond divided in 4. The shape had no origin. It could not be seen from the ground. Farmers said their GPS systems glitched when flying over it. Planes were diverted. The diamond is made up of repeated depressions in the earth, forming one enormous sigil, 4 nodes, one center. When linguists compared it to the margins of the Kellner hymnal, they found a match. A forgotten word, repeated again and again. Aletheia, the Greek word for unforgetting. That's what the boys are. Not people. They are memory that cannot be erased. In 2020, a late-night AM radio host in Kentucky reported a phantom broadcast coming from a dead frequency. No music, no voices, just the sound of 4 steady breaths, synchronized, never stopping. He played it on air for exactly 31 seconds before cutting the feed. Listeners from 5 states called in, claiming to have nosebleeds and nightmares. One woman called the station screaming, "They're not breathing. They're waiting. That's the sound of waiting, and they're looking for the one who forgot them." The frequency 9344 has since gone dark. Attempts to triangulate the source always trace back to Whispering Pine Hill. Last year, an archaeological team was granted permission to excavate beneath the ruins of the old Kellner Hollow Chapel. What they found was a stone vault. Inside it, a spiral staircase descending into a blackness that seemed to swallow light. The walls were carved with thousands of names, all written in the same hand, all identical. In the final chamber, they found 4 chairs, carved from bone, arranged in a perfect square. And etched into the floor, "Only one may wake." They say the air was warm down there, like breath. The team has not spoken publicly. But one anonymous member sent a final, typewritten message to a former professor. "They are not boys. They are the original self-frag, minted to endure time. We are their dream, and they are starting to wake up. You're not supposed to remember this." The Kellner brothers were never part of any textbook, no museum exhibit, no record in the census, but the people who studied them, the ones who tried to forget, they left a trail of broken mirrors and buried truths. Because the greatest horror is this: what if we are not individuals? What if each of us is a sliver of something greater, split long ago to keep us safe? And what if something has begun calling those pieces back together? You've heard the hum, haven't you? Late at night, in the walls, behind the mirror, you've seen the face, maybe once in a dream, maybe reflected in a shop window, the face you almost recognized, and now you know. You know why the Kellner brothers must never be studied, because to study them is to wake up.